Hey, good afternoon, everyone. 10 weather meteorologist Ashley Batey here in the 10 Weather Center. And of course, we are still tracking the very dangerous Hurricane Irma. Winds still at 175 miles per hour as of the 2 o'clock update. And there really haven't been any significant changes in the track to this. So I'll go ahead and pop up the graphics for you. You can still see a well-defined eye that's now heading towards Turks and Caicos. That's going to be the next spot that really gets hit hard by this storm. Movement hasn't changed, still moving west-northwest. However, it has slowed down just a hair from what we were seeing earlier with our 11 o'clock update. But beyond that, really no significant differences. And we'll go ahead and take a look at the forecast cone. That has not changed either. We're going to continue to see this moving toward the northwest over the next few days. Next couple of days rather, and then by Saturday we should start to see this begin to turn back around to the north. Likely, once again, the biggest areas of impact are going to be places like southeastern Florida, Miami, and then come up the coast and potentially impact places like Savannah, Georgia, and then into the Carolinas as well. Here's the big update since 11 o'clock, and it has nothing to do necessarily with changes in Irma's track, but we do now have current evacuations, and I'm actually going to pop this right up here so you can read everything. Pinellas County, if you are in evacuation zone A, that's the one that's right near the coast there. That is a mandatory evacuation that goes into effect 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. So you have plenty of time to prepare, get the things around your home done that you need to do, but then after that you are being told that you need to leave if you live in evacuation zone A. And also countywide, if you live in a mobile home in Pinellas County, winds are quite possibly going to be too strong to safely allow you to stay in a mobile home. So also you are being told you need to evacuate. For Manatee County, there's a voluntary evacuation for Zone A. It's not mandatory the way it is in Pinellas. It is voluntary, but you're still being told you need to leave all mobile homes in Manatee County in preparation for this storm. In terms of timing with this one, I'm going to go ahead and put a track. We're going to show you the next model runs. All right, move this back down here. All right, so here we go. Right now we've got this storm sitting just north of the Dominican Republic, moving toward the northwest, and then over the next 24 hours or so, we'll see that continue to move toward the northwest, and then it's going to start to slow down and make that turn as we head into Saturday. And at that point, we're going to start to see conditions really deteriorating across parts of southeastern Florida. At this point, the Tampa Bay area really won't see any significant impacts. It's going to be a little bit breezy, and that'll start on Friday. Then as this moves up the coast, and these two models are in good agreement still, the GFS as well as the European, although the GFS does keep the center of the storm just offshore, whereas the European does take a little bit more of a westerly track and sort of bring it up the middle of the state, and as a result it's going to slow down. So that's why we do anticipate that that's going to be a little bit more toward the northeast as opposed to just due east. All things considered, following the same track. And then through Monday, we expect a strong northwesterly wind throughout pretty much all areas along and north of the I-4 corridor, and then conditions will gradually get better as we head into overnight Monday, then into early Tuesday morning. So we're going to be carefully watching this one over the next couple of days. Now, unfortunately, in terms of specific threats to, I've been doing these for the last couple of days, and I've been getting a lot of questions about what's going to happen in Tampa, what's going to happen in Bradenton, what's going to happen in St. Pete, what's going to happen in Jacksonville, what's going to happen in Miami. It's too soon to pinpoint specific impacts for specific neighborhoods. Right now, everything's going to be a pretty generic, broad brush, here's what you need to look out for kind of scenario. So Sunday into Monday, we are likely going to experience tropical storm force winds, and we'll likely see watches issued either tonight or first thing tomorrow morning for the Bay Area in anticipation of that. It is possible that some areas will see hurricane force winds as well. If it takes a more westerly track, that's obviously going to include more of the Tampa Bay area. But until we know which of these two solutions is really going to pan out, it's because hurricane force winds only extend out 50 miles from the center. If it's further offshore, then maybe it's just Eastern Polk, Eastern Highlands County that see that. If it takes a little bit more of a westerly track, that could extend all the way over toward close to I-75. So there's a lot of variability that we just can't nail down specifics right now. I do want to go over those evacuation orders just one more time. For Pinellas County, if you are in evacuation zone A, if you are right along the coast, if you're up and down Gulf Boulevard, there are parts that bump right up against Tampa Bay that are also in evacuation zone A, you are under a mandatory evacuation starting at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. Also, countywide, this does not just include homes in zone A. All mobile homes need to evacuate in anticipation of that potential threat for tropical storm force winds, possibly even approaching hurricane force winds where it's not safe for you to stay in a mobile home. Bobby was talking about this just a few minutes ago. When you evacuate, you don't need to go hundreds of miles. You don't need to drive to Orlando in this situation. Because most of Pinellas is not being evacuated, you just want to stay somewhere local. You just want to get out of Zone A. And that's only going to probably mean driving 10 or 15 miles to get to either a friend's or a relative's house. And we're going to find out more information about shelters coming up in really here shortly as well. So we're going to, as soon as we have specific updates on where you can go in Pinellas County, we're going to have that. Also for Manatee County, if you're in Zone A, you're under a voluntary evacuation, meaning you don't have to, but they're definitely advising people that if you don't feel safe for any reason, if you feel like maybe your home isn't the sturdiest, or anything like you've just got really large windows and you're worried about a tree coming through your living room and you just want to keep everybody out of harm's way. It could be anything. You're more than welcome to go. And of course, we'll get more information about any shelters available in Manatee County as well. And like Pinellas, all mobile homes are needing to get out of the way of the storm. So we're going to continue to watch that. Let me run down briefly just the latest watches and warnings, because we do now have those posted for Southeast Florida. So I'll zoom in here. We've got warnings for the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, northern shores of the Dominican Republic, and Haiti. And we have hurricane watches in effect from about West Palm Beach down through Miami-Dade County. It includes all of the Keys and actually over toward Marco Island, and it does include Naples. This does not include Fort Myers. We also have a tropical storm watch around Lake Okeechobee, and we're likely going to see some watches issued farther to the north by tomorrow. It's just that it's going to take a little bit longer to get here, and when they issue watches, this is what they're looking for. Tropical storm force or hurricane force winds are possible within the next 48 hours. For warnings, we don't see those until those are expected 36 hours out. So in the case of Miami, that was issued earlier this morning, thinking that by around midday on Saturday, they're going to see potentially some hurricane force winds. So they went ahead and issued the watch. Issuing a warning will likely come tomorrow morning or late tonight in areas that probably aren't going to be quite as large as watch areas, where we may see tropical storm warnings issued. Any variety of that, but we'll start to see more and more of this getting going as we kind of get through things in the next few moments here. So I'm going to jump over, and I want to make sure I can answer at least some of your questions. Like I said, if it's specific threats for specific cities right now, I can't do that. I don't want to misguide you, have the models change by 50 miles tomorrow, and then have me tell you today, oh, it's going to be fine, when I don't know that for sure. I can just tell you kind of most likely over larger areas what's likely to happen in the next couple of days, and that's about as specific as we can get at this point. Let's here we go. All right. All right. Sorry, internet's been a little slow today. Scott asking, is it possible to show the runs of different wind productions? I do have one of those available for the Euro, but the GFS I would have to locate. So I don't have them set up for the whole state. The wind barbs or the direction are just going to be for our area, but you can see how the wind speeds are going to be picking up. We'll get a little bit breezy on Friday, and then as we head into Saturday, especially early Saturday for places like Miami, back towards West Palm, especially over into the Keys, that's when we start talking about wind speeds. These aren't wind gusts. These are the sustained winds up close to 30 miles per hour. And then likely by midday Saturday, we start flirting with tropical storm force winds in places like Miami. Unfortunately, Scott, the wind barbs, they only go out so far. So past 2 days, it'll just have the speed for you there. But notice that by early Sunday morning, we start talking about hurricane force winds in Miami. It won't be much longer before West Palm. We'll see that in the Keys as well. I know there's not a plot point here, but it is going to be bad. And look at that. By Sunday morning, we could see winds of close to 100 miles per hour in Miami. So we're definitely paying close attention to this one. Now, in the event the center of the storm actually makes landfall somewhere along the southeast coast, then on top of that, we have to worry about storm surge, and that's why evacuation orders for places like Miami Beach were put into place. It's also why places in the Keys were told to evacuate in part, but mainly just because it takes so long, especially during traffic, to get back sort of to the mainland there, that they have to issue those much earlier to get the folks off the southwestern Keys, give them plenty of time to get out. All right, let's see if we have more questions. Tammy asking about chances for tornadoes. So when we see tornadoes, typically the most likely area for them, now we can definitely see them outside of this, but if the storm is heading this way, and then I'm going to kind of cut this into quarters, and I'll show you which areas tend to get the most tornado activity. So it's always the northeast quadrant that sees the biggest number of tornadoes. That's not to say we can't see them over here or here or here, but this is typically the spot where, especially as these come ashore, they spin up these tornadoes. So in addition to the damage just being done by the sustained winds from the hurricane, you can have smaller pockets of larger damage done from tornadoes coming on shore. Typically, there are EF0, EF1 tornadoes. However, in some of the larger ones, they can be a little stronger just in that they're being pushed by the strong winds of this tropical storm or hurricane in this case. So that's the most likely setup. And for the Tampa Bay area, we're likely going to be on the western side of things. So our tornado chances are going to be limited, but certainly not zero. Our biggest threat is going to be the storms as a whole, straight line winds, and potentially some heavy rain. But our tornado threat, it's there. It certainly could happen, but we're probably not going to see too many of those just based on where the Bay Area is going to be sitting in relation to this. Let's see. What else? Another question about tornadoes. Hopefully I was able to answer that for you. Let's see. I'm assuming she being Irma, and it's moving toward the west-northwest. Well, Wendy, saying Irma's wider than Texas. Not quite true. It's big. It's about 500 miles across. A little bit larger, especially if you include the outer bands. And the state of Texas is a little bit wider than that, especially at its widest point there. So not quite, but we start talking about a storm this big compared to a state that across is less than 200 miles. And you're right, everybody in the state is going to, except maybe the western panhandle, is going to see at least some impacts from this. Now, how significant those impacts are, how much damage gets done, that's where there's going to be big differences based on a very small area. So if it takes a more easterly track, we're talking tropical storm force winds in the center of the state. If it takes a little bit more westerly and goes right up the middle, then a large chunk of the state of Florida could see those winds at 74 miles per hour or higher. Hey there.
Hello.
Do you have any questions or anything I can answer for you?
Yes, so I would like to join you because we would like to give this information to our Spanish viewers too.
Okay.
So I am here to translate a little bit of information.
Okay. I've never had a translator before. I'm kind of excited.
So talk a little bit about what you've been discussing already, but I want to start talking about that evacuation order for Pinellas County.
So first thing, let's go ahead and pop up that graphic. So basically what we know right now in terms of evacuations, Pinellas and Manatee County are the two that have gone ahead and issued evacuation orders. In Pinellas, if you're in Zone A, it's mandatory. Starting at 6 o'clock tomorrow, you need to leave. And all mobile homes, not just in Zone A for Pinellas.
So I'm going to translate that now. Lo que sabemos hasta el momento es que para el condado de Pinellas, si usted vive en el nivel A o en casas móviles, la evacuación ahora mismo es mandatoria. O sea que si usted vive en esta área, lo que el condado le está diciendo es que le están pidiendo que se vayan de su hogar. No queremos que entre en pánico, no queremos que piense que está en un peligro inminente. Tenemos tiempo todavía y ella va a hablar un poquito más de cuándo es que vamos a empezar a sentir esos efectos. Pero por ahora lo que han decidido los comisionados es que van a hacer esa orden obligatoria para las personas que viven en el nivel A o en casas móviles. Si usted tiene preguntas de si usted está viviendo en el nivel A, vamos a poner un enlace para que usted sepa si su casa, su hogar, su apartamento donde usted vive queda en el nivel A.
Okay, I am impressed. All right, so that's for Pinellas. In Manatee County, we have a voluntary evacuation in Zone A, so you don't have to leave, but if you don't feel comfortable staying in your house, you're certainly welcome to leave. And also, like Pinellas, all people that live in mobile homes need to get out of those because winds could be so strong it's not safe to stay there.
So before I translate that, I don't know if we have it up yet, but one of the things that we should have up is a link so that people know whether they are in the level A, in that zone A.
I believe I did see something in the comment section that went up a couple of minutes ago, but we will definitely verify that.
Okay, just to make sure that people can go ahead and look for those. So, cuando se trata del condado de Manatí, si usted vive en el condado de Manatí, lo que debe saber es que hay una orden de evacuación, pero es voluntaria. O sea, el condado le está diciendo, le estamos recomendando que se vaya de su hogar si vive en la zona A o si vive también en casas móviles. O sea, que no necesariamente tiene que hacerlo, pero sí se le está recomendando como una medida de precaución.
All right. So that I think is pretty much the nuts and bolts of the evacuation. I did get a question about tornadoes that I was just kind of wrapping up answering. And our threat, based on where we are from the center of the storm, usually it's the northeast quadrant from the direction that the storm is moving that sees the greatest number of tornadoes. The other three tend to not get as many, but it's still possible. So in addition to tropical storm or possibly even hurricane force winds, there is the possibility of some isolated tornadoes.
And that's the northeast quadrant of the Tampa Bay area.
No. So it's the direction in which the storm is moving. So I'll just pop up this map. So I'll kind of cut this into fourths once again. So if we're talking about basically 4 quadrants of the storm, since it's moving to the west, it's the areas northeast of the movement. So in this case, it's this area here that's going to be most prone to getting those tornadoes. But if it starts to turn and takes a more northerly track and then hugs the coastline, the good news for us would be that quadrant's going to be out at sea. So we're actually going to limit that threat a little bit more, assuming that we can keep the eye out over open waters there.
Entonces ella lo que está explicando es que el área donde pueda haber una posibilidad de peligro, de que hayan tornados, es en la parte noroeste donde estaría el huracán. Entonces eso que ella les demostró ahí, esa es la área que tendría algún tipo de peligro. Pero si la tormenta, el huracán, continúa a moverse hacia el área oeste, entonces no entraríamos en ese peligro de tornado en nuestra área.
Okay, so that one right there. We're getting a thumbs up from Grant. So, okay, very cool.
Bianca, you're never leaving.
I know, isn't she great?
I
love it. That's so fantastic for all of our Spanish-speaking viewers. I mean, absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Y si tienen cualquier pregunta que yo les pueda contestar en español, nos hace las preguntas que estaría muy feliz de contestárselas.
We care about you guys too. We want everybody safe.
Yep.
Very true. Okay, let's see. I don't think we've talked about rainfall totals yet with this one, but it's going to be much less of an issue than what we saw with Harvey. So many people, I think, are really on edge because of what we saw coming out of Houston. To allay your fears somewhat, though, as this storm blows through, we're talking about very different rainfall totals. If you remember Harvey, we had 40, 50 inches of rain across a huge chunk of the state. In this case, we're talking 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe some isolated totals of 12, and that's really going to be right along the East Coast. Where we are, we're talking more in the 2 to 5 inch rain. So yes, there could be some small localized flooding, but are we talking about a widespread flooding event with this one? Certainly not for the Tampa Bay area.
Una de las cosas que estábamos comentando es que parte del efecto que estamos viendo y de un poco del miedo que tenemos es porque vimos las imágenes que vinieron del huracán Harvey. O sea, vimos que ellos sufrieron muchas inundaciones y muchos efectos por esa lluvia, y por eso es que tenemos ese sentido de precaución de que no vaya a suceder lo mismo aquí. Pero lo que Ashley explica es que no tenemos ese peligro, por lo menos por ahora, en nuestra área. Lo que estamos viendo es que el pronóstico demuestra que podemos llegar hasta quizás 8 pulgadas de lluvia, pero no es en nuestra área, es más al oeste de la Florida. Lo que podemos ver en el área de Tampa es que podemos llegar a unas 4 pulgadas por ahora. O sea que no tenemos ese peligro de ver unas imágenes de inundaciones tan terribles como las que vimos en Texas.
All right. Let's see, what else can we...
And while you keep doing that, I'm going to go get my phone so I can share the live on my page. You keep talking.
Okay, perfect. All right. Let's see. Let me go over briefly, if you're just joining us, the current watches and warnings that we have. So right now, that storm is just north of the Dominican Republic, and that eye is really closing in on the Turks and Caicos Islands. That's going to be the area up next where we're going to see significant damage from this storm. And then continuing up through all the islands in the Bahamas under a hurricane warning. Cuba under tropical storm warnings. Some hurricane watches have also been posted. And then as we get up into the state of Florida, that's where we have right here the hurricane watch. No warnings as of right now. So what that means is conditions are possible where we get hurricane force winds coming up within the next 48 hours. And we're likely expecting those to begin on Saturday, and that threat will be there until Tuesday, or until they allow that warning to expire, which especially for areas that are a little bit farther to the south, like the Keys, back towards Homestead, will probably be sooner than that, because this is a pretty fast-moving storm, and that's actually good news because we don't expect it to sit over us and just park itself, and that's why we're not expecting the rain event that Harvey was. This will actually be pretty quick. We're talking about in the Tampa Bay area, really seeing things getting going late Sunday in terms of really getting the worst of it, and then overnight Monday, and then throughout the day Monday and into Tuesday, things will significantly improve. So you're talking about only 2 days. If you look at Harvey, we had the storm hit and then come on shore, move back out, come back on shore, and then finally slowly drift off to the northeast. So we were talking about a 5-day event where just massive amounts of water fell.
Entonces, otra de las diferencias que estamos viendo entre el huracán Harvey y lo que esperamos para este huracán Irma es que no va a ser un huracán que se va a mantener en nuestra área por tantos días. Lo que estamos esperando es que quizás afecte el área de la bahía por 1, quizás 2 días, pero no como el huracán Harvey, que tuvo oportunidad de estar en Texas por 5 días y crear todo el daño que creó. Entonces, volvemos a esa orden de evacuación en el condado de Pinellas. Creemos que ellos están queriendo prevenir para no tener que lamentar. Entonces están pidiéndole a la gente que tengan eso en mente, que empiecen a evacuar comenzando mañana a las 6 de la mañana, pero tiene tiempo, y además debe saber que no necesariamente tiene que irse tan lejos. Van a haber refugios y los vamos a mantener informados acerca de dónde pueden ir a refugiarse, que no necesariamente tienen que irse completamente del condado de Pinellas. Así que sí es una orden de evacuación seria, pero no necesariamente tiene que salir corriendo hoy mismo, sino que todavía tiene tiempo. I was just explaining a little bit how this relates to the evacuation order that we're getting from Pinellas County, where the county is telling us we should take these precautions and we should evacuate. But this is not a hurricane like we saw in Harvey, that we're going to have that huge storm surge and that huge rainfall that created the problems that it did in Texas.
Absolutely. A completely different animal. And I do kind of want to talk about, because there's going to be a lot of places that are, I think, going to be looking at these evacuation orders and saying, wait a minute, I thought you were saying this was going to be an East Coast event, and what happened? Did the track change? What's going on? So there's actually been no changes to the track. Here's the problem. When we make a forecast, that's a best guess, and it's pretty good out about 3 days. After that, we start trusting our models just a little bit less. So that's why we kind of put this cone around it. And that means that based on our forecast, which right now kind of has the center going right through Miami and then up the East Coast, there's still some variability this far out. So we're still thinking, you know what, it's remote, but there's a possibility that we could still see something try and move into the Gulf of Mexico. And the way Pinellas is set up, it's particularly vulnerable to storm surge flooding. There's about a 90% chance that is not going to be the case. The mobile home evacuations were definitely because of the potential for strong winds. They're not really sturdy structures, even for severe thunderstorm warnings, which are about 60 miles per hour. We really encourage people not to stay there because they can be blown over and you can be injured. So if we start talking about the potential of hurricane force winds, we just want to say, you know what, it's not a safe place to stay. Find a sturdier shelter, especially in this case where it's just a couple of days that it's really going to be potentially bad around the Tampa Bay area. But the problem is they've got to make these decisions well in advance. So we don't really have enough time to say, you know what, let's wait another day. Let's find out what the models do tomorrow, and maybe we can shrink that cone. We really got to a point where a decision by emergency management officials in Pinellas needed to be made today. And unfortunately, there was just enough uncertainty there where they said basically we're not willing to risk it, and let's get Zone A out. Now that's just one out of 6 evacuation zones in Pinellas County. So when you think about it in the grand scheme of things, this is not going to be a mass evacuation of all of Pinellas County. We just need the folks that live near the beach, live right near the bay, that are particularly susceptible to flooding, to just find a safer place to stay. And we don't need you to go to Orlando. We don't need you to go halfway across the state to do that. It may just be 5 or 10 miles to go stay with a friend or a neighbor and kind of ride it out.
And I can explain that and I'll repeat it. No es necesariamente que usted se tenga que ir muy lejos de donde usted vive. Es para que vaya a un lugar más seguro. Y nuevamente, para eso es que están los refugios. Algo que Ashley estaba diciendo es que no vaya a pensar que porque hay esta orden de evacuación, las condiciones han cambiado. Las condiciones continúan según nuestros meteorólogos se lo han estado informando. Estamos todavía en lo que se llama ese cono de la tormenta, pero estamos casi ya en el borde de lo que es el cono de la tormenta. Entonces estas decisiones se tomaron porque ya había que tomar una decisión y el condado quería estar más seguro para no tener que uno después lamentarse porque no pudieron tomar esas decisiones en el momento. Entonces lo que es importante para usted saber es que está especialmente vulnerable si vive en una casa móvil. Si usted vive en una casa móvil, lo que está diciendo Ashley es que no es solamente la lluvia lo que lo va a afectar, pero el viento también va a ser peligroso para usted. Porque las casas móviles no es como una casa de concreto que va a poder aguantar ese azote de un viento fuerte. O sea que si usted vive en una casa móvil, lo mejor que puede hacer para prevenir es que se vaya a un lugar que sea más seguro. Y si vive en la zona A, también es preferible que se mueva de ahí porque entonces vamos a ver un poquito más de ese peligro de que el agua suba. Nuevamente, no es un peligro que estemos hablando algo comparado con Harvey, pero sí hay ese peligro que queremos prevenir.
All right, I think we've kind of covered everything, so hopefully that's all the information you were hoping to get. I know I can't really say specifics now until we kind of figure out how far this storm's going to be, and we're likely going to get that information on Saturday. Once it starts to turn, depending on how soon or how late that is, that's going to give us a much better picture. But unfortunately, with regards to specific impacts around the Tampa Bay area, it's probably going to be Saturday before I can answer that.
Entonces ahora mismo nos llegó algo de información. We just got this press release about Pinellas County and what the evacuation order means. So once again, level A, which is on the coast, and you can click on our link to see specifically if you live in that area. All mobile home parks, because you mentioned it's not only the surge but also the wind.
And that's going to be a potential threat throughout the county. So that's not just an evacuation A. If you're in a mobile home anywhere in Pinellas or Manatee County, you need to leave that mobile home.
Exactly. And then there's a possibility that level C evacuations could be ordered on Saturday.
Okay.
Levels B and C may leave at residents' choice prior to the order. So right now what the county is saying, you have a choice if you live in level B and C to leave, but stand by for any additional evacuation orders that could start on Saturday.
Okay, but right now the only folks that are required to leave are Zone A, which is right along the coast, and I believe that's anywhere from sea level up to 11 feet. I believe that's the number. And then all mobile homes in Pinellas County need to get out. If you're B or C, be prepared for the possibility that on Saturday there could be some evacuation orders coming down. But as of right now, it's just Zone A.
Got it. And again, this is 6 a.m. on Friday is when it goes into effect, and they just announced the shelters for Pinellas County. So we have 3, 6, 7 shelters that they just announced. Last we spoke to them, they didn't have these yet. This just came out with this information that we're going to have on our website so that you can click on it and look at the ones that are closer to you that you may want to check out if you don't have another place to go to. So 7 shelters, that's good news. Because again, we're not saying that you have to go away from Pinellas County.
In fact, we would prefer that you didn't. There's a couple of situations when evacuation orders get issued, and why we try and wait as long as we can. First up, because we want to have a good idea where the storm is going. We don't want to send people out on the roadways when the storm shifts and, if we had waited another 12 hours, we could have told those people, no, you should shelter in place. The biggest thing, though, is the people that need to get out, the people that are right near the coastline, they need to have roads clear so they can get inland and get where they need to go. And that's why we don't want people trying to go all the way to Orlando, blocking up, more exits for the people that need to try and get somewhere, versus if you were to just stay 10 or 15 miles from your home, if that's all you need to go, you're there, you're much quicker, you're off the roadways, and they're cleared for other folks. The other thing too is, another reason you don't want to go all the way to Orlando is there's a very real possibility their weather's going to be worse than what we're going to see here, especially if it takes that more easterly track. Orlando could be getting hit with hurricane force winds, and meanwhile here we're looking at maybe 40 miles an hour. It's a situation that's very possible at this point, so we don't want to send anyone into more harm's way than they would have been under if they had just stayed in their home in the first place.
A couple of things here. The time frame for evacuations is going to be, again, 6 a.m. tomorrow until Sunday at 8 a.m. So that's the time frame that the county is giving us to evacuate that level A. 7 shelters, again, they're all schools. We have a couple in St. Pete, Largo, Clearwater, Palm Harbor, Tarpon Springs, and again, we're going to list those for you so that you can take a look at those. En español les digo que ahora mismo acaba de salir información del condado de Pinellas, donde están anunciando que tienen 7 refugios. Todas son escuelas y están en el área de St. Pete, están en el área de Clearwater, Largo y otras ciudades en el área del condado de Pinellas. Vamos a tenerles información en nuestro website, así que pueden ahí darle clic al enlace para que vean cuáles son los refugios que van a estar disponibles para usted. Nuevamente, si usted vive en una casa móvil, lo que se está recomendando es, especialmente usted está en un área vulnerable y debería irse de su casa, no necesariamente inmediatamente. Tienen desde las 6 de la mañana, mañana viernes, hasta las 8 de la mañana el domingo. Así que pueden empezar a empacar sus cosas, hacer preparaciones, hablar con sus familiares. Si no tienen con quién irse, van a haber refugios disponibles para ustedes. Esta información acaba de salir ahora y se la vamos a tener disponible para ustedes. Another thing I wanted to mention, we had been announcing that Hillsborough County ran out of sandbags, but we got information that now they have some more, and they have 3 different locations where people can go find sandbags. We also have a story coming up where Eric Glasser is going to be talking about other alternatives that you could do for your home if you didn't have that access to sandbags. And he was talking a little bit about the Harvey effect, how people were really rushing to protect their homes because of the images they saw coming from Harvey. And we're going to give you options to do that. En español, si todavía no tiene sus bolsas de arena y está en el condado de Hillsborough, habíamos anunciado que se habían acabado. Tantas y tantas personas fueron a buscar bolsas de arena que ya no habían disponibles, pero desde la 1 de la tarde abrieron 3 centros donde pueden ir a buscar sus bolsas de arena. Si no tiene el tiempo, si no alcanza a agarrar esas bolsas de arena, lo que vamos a hacer es que le vamos a dar opciones de otras cosas que usted pueda hacer para proteger su casa en caso de que hayan inundaciones.
Okay. Is there any other questions that maybe you're thinking of that we haven't gotten to?
I wanted to cover sandbags and evacuations.
Okay.
We did that, and once again, I'll say this in Spanish too. The only 2 counties are Pinellas and Manatee. Pinellas is mandatory. Manatee is voluntary. Así que nuevamente, si usted vive en el condado de Pinellas, ese es el único condado en el área de la bahía de Tampa donde hay evacuaciones que son obligatorias y comienzan desde mañana hasta el domingo. En el condado de Manatee hay evacuaciones, pero son voluntarias. Así que su decisión, se le está dando una recomendación y usted decide.
All right. Well, if you guys have more questions, I will be checking back through the afternoon. We'll have another update on the track at 5 o'clock tonight. Bobby will get you caught up there. And then the one after that will be, again, at 11 p.m. By tomorrow, we'll likely have some watches for tropical storm force winds likely issued for the Tampa Bay area. And, of course, we'll keep you updated if there's any new information in regards to evacuation orders or anything like that. So in the meantime, now's the time to kind of finish up those preps. If you still got a little bit of work to do around the house, if you are evacuating, now's the time to go through and kind of take note of everything that's in your house, videotape that. You'll want that for insurance purposes, and just make sure you have all the important papers you're going to need. Deeds to your house, passports for everyone, social security cards, IDs. You'll want to take all of that with you if you are going to leave. Aside from that, finish up any last minute preparations you have to do. The weather's not going to get bad in the Tampa Bay area until Saturday, so you've got today as well as tomorrow to get all of that done.
Thank you so much for all the information, Ashley. Yo voy a continuar estando al tanto de cualquier pregunta que usted tenga en español para nuestros televidentes que hablan español. Pueden darle clic a mi nombre, voy a hacer unos comentarios. Si tienen necesidad de que les traduzca cualquier cosa, estoy disponible.
All right, bye.